Hey everybody, welcome to UD7 second Saturday's tournament. I'm with Mythical, as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Twin. We've got three more games. One of this is returning from Wednesday. That's going to be Kirby, but we've got two games we haven't featured yet. We're going to be seeing some Trackmania twice, and we're going to be seeing some Megaman, some Megamens 1s through 6. Just one boss from each one, so a little different from the category for the actual season, but you can take a look at sort of the docket for today, these four games in this particular order.
Yeah, so Kirby's Dreamland, the first on Game Boy, we've seen that on Wednesday, was pretty interesting, lots of RNG, a very tense speedrun. The HP count is very tight and almost got us on a couple of occasions. Trackmania is very interesting speedrun and totally different. Lots of people have played that game at very high level, and we are going to do all the green tracks from the main game. So it's going to be down to the second, pretty much, on lots of tracks, I think. And Megaman 1 to 6, one boss per game, means you have to choose the one boss you want to beat with only your buster and move on as fast as possible. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what bosses the players have chosen to do today. The players we are going to restream are Cylinder Mars, Moonrim, Sylph and Skunkoff, but we should have lots more. About 30 people registered for the races today, so we'll see how well that goes for everyone. The top 10 will get a star on their player card, and already 3 gold stars have been awarded, so it's heavily battled. Nobody has 2 of them yet, so we'll see how that goes. But first, let's take a look at Kirby's Dreamland. If you've never seen that game, it's super cute, and well, the bosses are pretty mean in that speedrun.
Yeah, it does unfortunately come down a lot to randomness with some of the boss patterns, but there's plenty of time to be saved with execution as well. There's even some pretty advanced strats that you really need to be very precise in order to pull off. I'm thinking specifically of the quick kill with the curry on the second boss. I think we only saw one player go for that yesterday, and I don't know if we'll see any of that again. It really is kind of a high level optimization, and we're pretty early on in the game here. There's also some crazy stuff you can do on DDD with like some double hits with these stars, but there's something going on with like a quick swallow and then spit back out, there's like a window where you can do like a quick version of it to anyway. We're probably not going to see it, so we won't really get to talk about it for a little bit. But it's a lovely little game, very short, and it should make for a pretty close race, I think.
Yeah, we'll see how well that goes. Moonrim, Sylph, Cylinder Mars, and Skunkoff today on stream. So their PBR, I have all the I had prepared all the list of the players, and I totally killed it just before. But Cylinder Mars is at 1354. He's should be like easily beaten by Sylph, who's the best here and has a 12:10. So about a minute and a half better PB for Sylph, and gaining seconds in that game is pretty hard because the movement is very precise, and you want to have perfect RNG. I'm not sure what kind of time we can expect to see on races.
Yeah, it does. There's a pretty big variance, it turns out, with. It basically comes down to 2 bosses, really, that are the biggest deciders, Krakow and DDD, the last 2 bosses. Of course, Krakow needs to be fought twice, so double the fun there. But you can see some pretty big swings, 20, 30 seconds, purely due to boss patterns. So it's the kind of thing that can also be mitigated. Well, not Krakow. Krakow, really, it's quite easy to sort of be more or less perfect on that fight. But with DDD, it actually is very difficult to make the most out of the bad patterns that you do get, a weaker player can get punished really hard by some of his attacks, whereas a really strong player knows how to stay close, bait him into the really short movements, and can sort of mitigate the harshness of our RNG overlord.
Oh yes, we'll see how well that goes. Let's see how many players we have in that race. Should have the complete list by now, or not. Oh yeah, we have 36 people. So all UD runners, if you don't know what UD is, it is fun competition. I'm dying.
It is a competition of 10 different games that are chosen across a wide variety of platforms and genres, and a community of players comes together to speedrun these games, do a lot of races. It eventually culminates in a big competition across all 10 games. The Decathlon does indeed happen. I'm not sure. The format's a little up in the air, actually, in terms of what sort of grand finals everything is heading towards. But in past seasons, there was a grand finals and ultimate finals where the players would play live in a theater in France. So we're in the fun stages here where people are learning and experimenting, but eventually towards the end, it really does build towards something kind of special.
Alright, the race has started, and we can see first level here. First boss has little RNG to almost none. Sometimes it doesn't throw the bomb, but usually does in quick succession. Moonrim is in first place, quickly followed by Sun and the Mars, apparently. Shady a little bit behind, and Skunkov fourth place here, entering the tree. The boss fight, a Wispy Wood, you have to hit them 6 times with apples, and eventually doesn't, he attacks you instead of spawning those apples, so you really want the attack to last as little as possible. Sending the mouse with very good pattern here. Moonrim as well, doing great.
Moonrim almost spat out the one apple into the other one, and that's kind of bad news. Your enemies are your ammunition in most cases, so you do not want to be using your ammunition to be killing your other ammunition. Definitely a bad situation, especially because the ammunition for Wispy Woods kind of comes in threes, and the boss has exactly 6 health, so you do get a whole extra cycle. If something does go wrong, nothing goes wrong for any of these players. Pretty straightforward boss. Moving on to the second stage.
First half, very quickly done. Low here, you have to hit them in the face 3 times. The mid bosses always have 3 HP. The RNG, once again here, it doesn't matter too much. The height at which it spawns is not too important, doesn't lose you too much time. The second, the actual boss fight at the end here of that level. Oh wow, Sandemos died with the curry. He's going to lose a lot of time here, sadly. He's going to go for it again.
It's pretty bold going for this curry. This is, you have to be damn near perfect with this thing in order to actually save time with it over your best case scenario using regular strats like we're seeing from Moonrim and Shady here. Just sucking in the blocks when you get the chance, spitting them back out. The curry obviously, will rapid fire attack things, so you can get your 3 hits on each of those little guys. But you need to hurry to get there before it runs out, and Sailing to Mars, didn't actually get any hits out of that curry, so just time lost going to get it.
Yeah, it is incredibly hard and incredibly tight. You can, with like the regular fashion, speeding crates at low and kill them in 3 cycles, which depends completely on RNG, depending on the lines on which they spawn. You can or not go for that. So you have to have perfect RNG and perfect execution on that fight. So it's one of the hardest ones in the speedrun. And if you want to go for the curry, it's even harder.
If you've never seen Kirby's Dream Land before, you might be surprised to see that they're not using any special powers or anything, but Kirby actually doesn't have his copy ability. in this game. That was something they sort of added in later, even though it would become kind of his whole thing. Right now, all you've got is taking in enemies and spitting them back out. I guess you've also got an attack if you fall from a great height. Kirby does that kind of faceplant thing, and that will actually hurt enemies, so it's a little difficult to use, but there are a couple cases where they will be just kind of dive bombing on some of these unsuspecting enemies.
It's pretty tight to know exactly if you're going to kill the enemies by falling onto them, or if you're just going to take a hit, so you have to know exactly how Kirby's behave, obviously, and it has a lot of different strats. The movement, the flying, the optimization, and the lag reduction also play a big part here. So all the movement in the end in the UD7 is never going to be like down to improvisation, and I'm sure all the players are going to do the same thing. Sometimes here, like it's week 2 of UD7, we see a lot of players taking unfortunate hits and try something new, or just improvise because they don't remember exactly the route. But Silent Mars and Moonrim are very, very close together. Skunkoff is just a little bit behind, and Still Shady is at the start of the next level. So Still Shady taking the lead by 15 seconds or so. Silent Mars and Moonrim almost done with the level, and here we go. So Silent Mars is about a second ahead of Moonrim, and Still Shady has to gather points and as many seconds as possible on Kirby, because Silent Mars is our best player on Trackmania, and we are playing that twice today. So if they want to win that tournament, they have to gather as much as possible on every other game.
Yeah, this is, for Kirby, this is kind of the results we expected. Moonrim and Silent Mars very closely matched. Still Shady a bit of an edge, so things are playing out pretty much exactly like we expected so far. Still Shady with a lead of, I don't know, 30 seconds maybe. Still pretty close. It's you know, enough that some very, very bad boss RNG could maybe tilt things, but I doubt it. Still Shady is looking very strong. Dealing with some of the more difficult sections here with the enemies that have they explode if you try to suck them up. They get angry and they come after you, and it's a little frightening. And just I don't know, the Gordo here bouncing around, like there's a lot of the airborne enemies just kind of clogging up a lot of space on the screen. So getting through cleanly, efficiently is actually quite difficult.
So Krakow first fight here with only 1 HP for Silent Mars. Silent Mars died on Lololo and Lalala right before with the Curry, and still are in the race against Moonrim. They're doing very well. Skunkoff catching up with them as well, and Still Shady on the final screen before the boss. Krakow is probably the worst boss in Kirby's Dream Land, very random, and you have to fight it twice, so it can take a lot of your time if you're unlucky. The mint here, if you swallow it super early while behind the waterfall, you can stay like in the background of the level. It's pretty weird, and it saves a little bit of time due to lag reduction, so it's pretty cool. Moonrim and Silent Mars did not manage to do it, neither Skunkoff, so we're not going to see that on screen today.
Yeah, unfortunately. We did see some of that in our Wednesday race, so you could go check out the VOD for that, perhaps. Still Shady's Krakow fight is just about a third of the way done, about to land one more hit. Silent Mars and Moonrim both coming up on that fight now as well, and Skunkoff not too far behind, doing a good job of flying over those gaps. This weird hallway where they give you the curry to take out all these blocks, and they just put like 30 blocks in a row. But you know, that part is pretty simple. But getting over those little one-tile gaps in the floor, actually, it's really easy to drop down there. And then if you drop down in a way that you're kind of not suspecting, or you're too early on your up input to fly, and you end up not flying at all, and then you just kind of drop off the bottom of the screen, it can happen. So all the players did a really good job of sort of crossing that little annoying bit. Silent Mars is much further along in the Krakow fight than Moonrim. I'm guessing RNG played a role here, but the double for Silent Mars, just the overkill, I guess.
It doesn't deal extra HP, it's only
No, it
one
doesn't.
projectile. So it's a little bit of mismanagement here by Sander Mars, but they didn't die, so doing great. Skunkov lost a lot of time and probably died actually. Only two lives remaining here. Moonrim losing a lot of time, and Silv Shady is actually on PB pace. If they have a good Krakow and DDD fight, they could go for the 12-minute time here.
Sailing to Mars, touching the weird dancing clone of Kirby that destroys the enemies and opens the way into the boss fight. It's a weird mechanic I don't think I've ever seen in any other Kirby game, but there you go. Having a couple of one-hits each cycle on Lolo and Lana. This is pretty typical. It is extremely difficult to get 2 hits on any single one of these phases. So 1 hit each. Sailing to Mars done with this fight. Moonrim just starting. Silv Shadow in the Krakow refights.
If you solve the crate and don't like hit Lolo or Lalala immediately, and you wait for the next cycle, if you spit at the new crate they're moving, you're going to destroy the projectile and not the boss. So you're going to lose a lot of time. Like that's 2 cycles wasted. So Moonrim lost a lot of time. While Silv Shady is having a pretty good fight on Krakow here.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to tell, but I can absolutely tell that Krakow is dead, so definitely a great start. 2 bosses down in the boss rush. Arguably the 2 worst bosses down for Silv Shady. I don't think it really matters which order you do them in, so I think this is one of those cases where the runners are doing them sort of worst boss to last sort of situation in terms of RNG, so that you get your reset point sooner. But it really doesn't matter in a race such as this. Just kind of doing what you're more comfortable with.
The boss, I don't know if what's the boss order, like the ideal one, but yeah, I've seen a lot of runners go for Lolo first, and then Krakow, and then move up to Wispy Wood and the final one. I forgot its name, but well, if you're constantly shooting, look at Sailing the Mars screen on the bottom left of the screen. There's not much to optimize. As long as all your projectiles hit, you're not going to lose any time. So it's not where you're going to waste all your luck. Essentially, is almost done with Wispy Wood. Once again, we just have like a few frames here and there, but we can guess exactly how well they're doing. Entering DDD at the 12-minute mark, and if DDD is the biggest RNG spawn I've ever seen, like in a lot of games, it's pretty rare that it's that much, so they have like 5 or 6 different attacks, and only 2 of them spawn the stars you are going to swallow to hit them, and sometimes it's not going to do the attacks at all, and sometimes it's going to do them like in quick succession, like we're seeing on Silv Shady screen. So it's you can lose a lot of time, and there is like a very precise trick to do double hits with a single attack. The jump attack can spawn 2 stars, one on the left side and one on the right star, and it's fairly precise, but it is doable to do double hits. Silv Shady is done with the boss, and everybody else is on the final boss of the boss rush here.
Yeah, basically finishing one DDD fight ahead of both the competitors on the left side of the screen, dropping into the fight pretty much in sync. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what kind of patterns they get. 2 hammers for Salian and 1 jump for Moonrim. Then the combo in the corner is going to knock Moonrim out. They are not going to lose their progress. They're going to start right back at the DDD fight, but clear advantage to Sailing to Mars now.
It's pretty unlucky to get killed on DDD. It wastes a lot of time, but Moonrim can still beat Sailing to Mars with better patterns, obviously, and better luck. It's going great for them, but Sailing to Mars is making good progress, but Moonrim already passed Sailing to Mars here.
This is close. This is really close. So DDD, 2 of DDD's attacks are actually all three of them will sort of run up to where you're standing. The other one is the jump that kind of jumps a set distance. But the other three, they will run right up to where Kirby is and then do whatever it is. They will try to suck him up, he will try to hit him with the hammer, or he will just trip and fall just flat on his face. But all three of them, you want to make sure that you're as close to DDD as possible so that he moves the shortest distance, does the attack, moves on to the next attack, and proceeds to continually give you ammo. Down to one hit left. Wow. Who's going to get the star first?
Moonrim
did
beat like DDD half a second earlier. Like it's very, very close. It's impressive. And Skunkov gets the final hit a few seconds later. So very close finish for the three other runner. But Silph Shady did take the lead. They finished the race in fourth place. Agent got a 12:20, Double Tiffin a 12:45, and Yuganan a 12:48. So Silph Shady is fourth on the leaderboard with his 12:54. And a lot of runners are going to finish here, so we are going to take a look at the current ranks. So 10 runners are done.
Yeah, we'll keep this this timer going so that you can take a look at all of the other runners who are currently racing, finishing. Who knows where they are?
On their
Twitch, probably the last level.
Yeah, probably, but if you want to see the other perspective of the other runners, obviously you can check them out, but they're not going to be as well commentated, and you're not going to see such close races on a single screen, obviously. But Jean is one of the best runners from the UD and has already a gold star and 2 bronze stars, so doing great, and is one of the better players on Kirby, on Trackmania, and has no time on Megaman, so I don't know how well they will hold on that first place for today.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are kind of question marks on Megaman, it seems. It's the biggest task of the bunch, I think. It's up there with Messenger, maybe. And I'm starting to think maybe Trackmania is kind of a little difficult. It's not as long, so length obviously means there's kind of more to learn. But Mega Man has such a huge history behind it, so there's just tons to learn about the speedrun. And I think it's a lot of people have been sort of checking off a lot of the simpler, more fun games like your Kirby's and stuff, and they've been kind of more willing to jump into that than to jump into the beast that is Mega Man. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who are playing today who are relying on their ability to play these other games and are gonna coast a little bit on Mega Man.
Yeah, so okay, the player list is too long. We have our 23rd place, and we are not going to see the ranks of the remainder 13 runners. They get to the finish, and obviously everybody that's already done are practicing Trackmania, I guess. That's pretty normal in such races, so we are going to wait just a couple extra minutes so everyone has the opportunity to finish. And Trackmania is up next. Trackmania is an interesting speedrun because it's fairly easy to be close to the world record, like couple of seconds away on each single track, and those 2 seconds, the 2 final seconds, are insanely hard to work on, to practice, and to get to save at any point. It's very, 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 very difficult, and it's fairly different from any other games where in Mega Man it starts to get hard, like maybe 2 minutes away from the world record on every single of the games, and maybe even 3 or 4 minutes. But Trackmania is such short burst, and it's very technical.
Yeah, absolutely. We can take a look at it now. It's not quite a Mario Kart. It's got a little more physics going on, but it's also not. It's not quite like a Forza or a Gran Turismo, full-on simulation racer. It's somewhere in between, but it does have some pretty important aspects to the physics and stuff that you kind of need to understand if you want to start going after those 2 seconds, like you said. Knowing how the car behaves on different terrains, knowing how to land on, there's some cases. It reminds me a lot of Trials, actually, that we had in season 6. Knowing how to land on downslopes and not upslopes, things like that. You'd do a track really, really well, feel like you nailed it, can't really improve it, and then be like, oh well, there's still 2 seconds to find somewhere on this track, and it's through a series of very, very small optimizations that are extremely difficult to track down, like you said. So I'm not sure where all our players are going to end up, and furthermore, this is a race. It's very easy to grind out. There's an instant reset button in this game, so that as soon as you hit that wall or you're not happy with that turn or whatever, you reset, you go again. But not the case in this race. They're going to have to deal with whatever bad things, any bad burnouts, clipping the railing or whatever. It's very easy to flip and like go off the course. Like, some bad stuff can happen in this race.
So it's all down to going for all those tiny optimization you were talking about, and as soon as something goes wrong, you have to be able to recover very, very quickly and keep on going and adapt, because your speed is going to be tiny. It's very, very different, just by a few miles per hour, and then you have to react differently, or your timings change, and you cannot like go and instantly reset to grind out all the tracks. You can see on Sayondamar's screen, and they have all the green medals. That's the that's even better than the gold, and Moonrim, Silph Shady, and Skunkoff are not there yet. It's very hard just to beat the author of the maps, so we'll see how well they do, and if they can manage to, with all the advantage they have on that game, get to the first place by a significant margin.
Yeah, we'll see. I have one green medal in the
nice.
In the white. It was actually one of the white tracks as well. We're doing the green tracks today. If you look at the top right-ish area of the screen, you can see that the tracks are divided roughly according to difficulty along the top right. So green is sort of medium easy. The game gets, I mean, it's already quite, even in the white tracks, to go for like the gold medals and the author medals are extremely difficult. But to even just kind of do a race cleanly towards the end, it does start to get pretty insane. They start throwing some crazy upside down loops and stuff at you. We'll even see some of those here in the green tracks as we get started.
So fairly obvious like game to read. You have like right, left turn, accelerate and brake, and that's it. And with all those very few buttons, you have to get to the finish as fast as possible, passing all those checkpoints. What you have to remember about Trackmania is that it's all about like shaving off a few seconds, going at insane speed, like trying to be as close as possible, as tight as possible on every single turn. And there are various terrains, so the dirt, the regular road, and the grass mainly, and those different materials are going to affect the way you turn and the way you accelerate, and it's all about managing that. Moonrim has stopped. I don't know what happened to them. Maybe they'll do a quick reset and move on. The loads are pretty long on Trackmania, so we are going with in-game time, so load less, and so maybe someone is going to save time just due to having a way better PC, but it should not affect their final time.
I'm worried this is a controller issue, and even if it gets sorted out, it doesn't feel good to deal with this sort of thing. And you also start to wonder, like, is my controller okay? Is this something I can even use for the rest of this competition? It's ugly. So hopefully everything goes well. for Moonrim, like it's going for Salient to Mars, who
they're going to
just
slow
get over. Okay, yeah. So the game, the game will try to flip your car back the way it's supposed to go. But if you are particularly good, you can get it stuck upside down, and the game kind of won't make it work. But you can still kind of go forwards like a little bit, and just maybe even showing off a little bit upside down across the finish line. It counts. It's all good. And we're moving on to the next track. But that really evened things up now between the other three racers.
Yeah, Salient Mars did lose a lot of time here. This track, it ends with that dirt road, and you don't want to flip. There's like a small tiny bump in the middle and can be a bit tricky, but Skunkov and Salient Mars making great progress. Silph Shady is just behind them, not dropping as much on Trackmania compared to Kirby, so we can follow their progress. And Moonrim apparently is back on track on the first map here.
Back on track, indeed. We've seen a lot of concrete, we've seen a lot of dirt. Pretty shortly we'll see some grass, like you mentioned. And grass is horrible. I hate it. Every time it shows up, I wish it would go away. I don't fully understand it. I just know that you can't turn too much on it, or everything goes bad. It just watching the ghost car just pull away from me in the grass because I'm doing something wrong and I don't quite understand why is extremely frustrating. So I'm gonna watch these guys and they're gonna show me how it's done. I'm sure they're on a pretty long track. There's a couple tracks that are kind of like a one-shot track, and they're up as a couple that you have your traditional 2-3 lap sort of situation. Multi-lap is what it says above the archway as they get going. So they are pretty long. You do kind of get into a groove. You need to be ready to adjust to you're coming into the second lap faster than you started off the line on the first lap. But it does mean a mistake is probably going to be twice as bad with a longer track. You lose your speed and it takes longer to get back up to your top speed. So if you were to cross a finish line or something before it mattered, then you would lose less time than if you actually had enough track left to have to get all the way up to your top speed. If that makes any sense. It's hard, basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The longer the track, the more difficult it is.
Yeah, more opportunities to make a silly mistakes, and you're going to lose a lot of time. Silph Shady did exactly that. So did Skunkov, so Salient Mars. They entered the track at the same time, pretty much, and they are now like 15 seconds ahead of Skunkov and about like 30 seconds ahead of Silph Shady. So very, very great progress. BO6 is probably the easiest track of the bunch. This is maybe the map where most players have the green medal. So very cleanly done by Salient Mars. And we're going to move on. As long as you don't take that pillar to the face, obviously, in the middle of BO6. But Silph Shady did dodge that pretty well. So grass, there we go. It's going to be awful, and everybody is going to try to go as straight as possible and with the correct speed, and don't try to move or brake or anything while they're on the grass, because that would just go to hell pretty much. So it's all about going straight and hoping it doesn't shift you towards the left or right. Yeah,
it's requiring you to turn on grass is the most evil thing this game has done to me throughout the green tracks so far. Salient Mars handling that quite handily. The transitions between the different surfaces as well. There are a lot of tracks that will have you drive, straight from concrete onto dirt, onto grass, onto concrete again. And the handling changes significantly, so you need to be kind of ready for how the behavior changes. We're getting some of the more trippy stuff here. Riding on the walls is Salient Mars. I think we're probably going to see a different camera angle. Yeah, Skunkov using the more traditional camera angle. I like the traditional one. It freaks me out watching Salient Mars have that other camera angle, finishing upside down, flying through a crazy loop-to-loop to finish off a ridiculous track.
This BO8 here on Skunk off screen is probably the hardest turn here. We're going to see Silk Shady get there in a couple of, just after that wall ride on the top right corner of the screen.
Oh, Skunk off. All right.
Yeah.
The loop-to-loop, if you lose your speed on the loop-to-loop, it can be pretty much game over.
Yeah, that would.
Alright, he's through.
It's okay, but they lost a lot of time here. Having to reset back to the checkpoint takes a lot. If you make any mistake and you press the wrong button because maybe you're too used to reset back to the beginning when you're practicing, you go back to the beginning, and that's even more devastating. So you have to be very, very careful with that and not let your muscle memory ruin your runs, obviously. So that's why in the UD we have so many like fun races and tournaments, so players can practice. You mentioned earlier that we did not yet reveal how the players will qualify to the grand finals, but the details will come soon, and it's obviously going to be through races of all 10 games in a row. So you have to be experienced in racing the games, not only running them.
Thankfully, these guys have got some experience under their belt. I'm sure they'll get more as the season goes on. Particularly Silk Shady, Sailing to Mars, Skunk Off were regulars back in season 6, and all did quite well. And even before that, I came along sort of at the very end of season 5 and was here for season 6. But there were more seasons before that, so these guys have a history with UD, and it can being able to compete. It's just this idea of just playing a lot of games just makes you better at learning new games. Yeah. It's the reason why a lot of blind speedrunning and mystery tournaments and stuff, you'll see people, despite it being ostensibly a total crapshoot if no one's played the game before, you will see the same names rise to the top just because they are really good at learning new games quickly. And the same is true in Ultimate Decathlon. So totally not surprised to see some of the regulars, the longtime veterans, getting really good at some games really quickly.
Yeah, obviously, some of those have played Trackmania before. It is a game that a lot of players have spent countless hours in. And it does help a little bit, but do remember that you have to get good at all 10 games in order to succeed in UD. Sailing Mars did fantastic on B11 here. Probably one of the most technical turns, like you have like a very, very sneaky road where Skunk Off is on the bottom right of the screen here, and getting all the drift here correctly so you don't lose too much speed is pretty insane, and Sailing Mars did that flawlessly. Silk Shady is right behind Skunk Off, so Skunk Off cannot make any mistake if they want to beat the game before them. And Moonrim is a long way behind, but they did have to reset at the start of the race due to controller issues, so it doesn't represent where they are relatively to the other runners.
Nice final sections on that track for both Skunk Off and Silk Shady. There's a section where you can get enough speed to actually like clear a barrier that's in the middle of the road. You just go clean over it. But if you are kind of off your route, if you've made some kind of mistake, you took a turn badly, you hit a wall, your speed's not there. You can't do it anymore. So you need to do something quite different to adapt. Sailing to Mars, sailing into this level, it just reminds me of like running around on a pool deck, just something to put the floor on it.
Have you seen the skip on that specific track? Sailing Mars did not go for it, but there's a tiny jump in the middle of the track, and you can actually like bounce off a railing and go directly to the end pretty much. It's pretty insane, and I yet have to see that in a race. It's very, very difficult. You have to get exactly the correct speed and angle, but eventually we'll get there.
Here we have one of the worst tracks. Sailing to Mars doing a fantastic job preserving a lot of speed over that grass section, is now into the dirt, which is definitely worse than concrete, but it is also just a big step up from that grass section. Has so much speed, he was able to land directly on the downslope of the next section. This was just a very well executed track.
Skunkoff having a very bad time on the B13 here, while Saint Mars is an entire track ahead of them, starting the final multi-lap track here. So B15, very technical. You have two sections where the floor is like red, as red cross on it, and it means that your engine stops working. You cannot accelerate anymore, so you have to go over those with the best speed and fastest as you can, or you're going to lose a lot of time. So it's one of those points in the game where if you do make a mistake somewhere, you could end up losing like 10 seconds in just an instant. So it's pretty scary, and Saint Mars is doing a great job here, grazing those walls all the times. It's insane that you can be so precise and not like hesitate just in an instant.
Yeah, you can really sense the confidence in Saint Mars's his movement and driving here. You've got to slow down like just a little bit heading into that first X turn, but if you do it right, you should fly way over this gap, this sort of dip in the road. If you're landing before that, like kind of on it, then you're not going in with enough speed, and it kind of hurts you double. You know, you're already going slower, but then you're going to crash into this bump instead of landing smoothly, and you're going to lose even more speed. So it's one of the ways that mistakes can sort of compound. Saint Mars avoided all of it. A very clean finish is sort of going to be joined pretty shortly here with Soul Shady and Skunkoff on the second lap, I believe. Yes, I can see it.
On the bottom.
I wasn't sure if it would be too blurry or not, but yes, it is. Bottom left.
Bottom left. Skunkoff starting the third turn. I'm noticing we are dropping a couple of frames here and there. I'm sorry. Sometimes the screen stops. I'm probably going to check out with the realization crew if we are having technical issues or not right after Trackmania, but we can get almost all of the race here, and Skunkoff did a good final turn and finishes on the same frame with Soul Shady. I wonder what their in-game time is going to be, but obviously pretty close, I would guess.
Yeah, that's like you said, differences in load times on computers and things, and it's we'll see as the information gets tabulated. I'm definitely looking at the wrong speedrun race here, so I could just check the results as they came in just a little bit ago.
Monorim in the final few tracks here, starting B15. We are at 15-minute real time. And Saint Mars got 11:24. Oh my god! So to me, sub 12 is very good, and I don't know at all how like sub 11:40 is doable at all. I don't get it. I have to work way more on Trackmania. Thankfully, we have like at least 10, 12 remaining weeks in UD7 to practice all those games, so I will be able to put some more time on Trackmania. Definitely a game I enjoy personally, but it's going to be very difficult, I'm sure, to be able to just get my sum of best close to that time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've just kind of just started picking up the gold medals in these tracks, and there's a lot of them I had to kind of fight for, even just the gold medal, and these guys are, in a race, one shot on each track, stringing all of them together, are way under the gold medal times on all of these tracks. So I understand completely what you mean when you say that it's kind of impossible to even comprehend how it's possible, but it really is. If you're good, it's possible to just be that good, and to just understand certain things about the game that just take time, I guess, before they sink in and click, and your fingers know how to make it happen. So luckily, such was the case for many of our runners today. We can go ahead and take a look. Janth riding high off that Kirby time, and a very solid Trackmania, currently sits in first. Silv Shady and Sailing to Mars are very close together, 4 points apart. Moonrim as well. Their time came in. We were watching them finish a little bit, but they did finish, and they are kind of in the pack as well. Skunkoff didn't have the best Kirby time. Is 20 points back. Going to be hard to make that up over 2 games, but look at these are some high numbers for Trackmania. I'm very impressed in anyone who's got in this sort of 170 to 200 point range.
Yeah, definitely. 190 is 12:30. It's a very good time. It means that you did not fail too much. You did not bump in every single wall everywhere, which is already incredible. Also means that you did not reset too much any single track, and that you started to put some in, like some pretty technical optimization. You cannot go blind and it gets those times, obviously. But so anybody under like over 175 points did put some time into learning and getting into those tracks. I can see like some surprising times relative to PBs. Devil Tifa got a 13:07, and that's a long way behind his PB. So that means something terrible happened on a couple of tracks or on one of the longer tracks, and that put them on the 8th place with Skunkoff. Moonrim is on the 5th place, Cylinder Mars 4th, and Silv Shady 3rd. So very, very close between our 4 runners streamed today. The total is at 399 for Jant. We had on Wednesday, who was it? Got exactly
the
800.
202, 202, 202, 196 for exactly.
Oh, Little May. Where?
Yes, it was.
Maybe they're not running today. They did practice Kirby and a minute, and maybe did not get the time in Trackmania or Megaman to be able to race with the other runners today. So I don't see their name on the leaderboard. But lots of people have finished, and it's very difficult to get in that top 10, apparently.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, actually. The 369, I guess, is the cutoff for top 10. That's 30 points means you're looking at 15 under the 200, so that'd be a 185 across both games. We're just 2 weeks in. And we've been playing, we've had competitions for like 7 of the 10 games now. So if you wanted to like sort of be with the pack and getting the achievements and participating in these events, you've put time across these 2 weeks into 7 different games. That's 2 days a game, basically. So
yeah, it's
in 2 days to get to this 185 point mark. That so many people were able to do this as well. I always am impressed by the ability of everyone who competes in the Ultime Decathlon this season. Despite the shift in focus to sort of more on fun, cannot deny the skill that's on display here.
So Rasta Bobby did not do Kirby, but did the race in Trackmania and got 11:22, so 2 seconds ahead of Cylinder Mars. So very close race between those two. And do we really need to present Megaman? Like, I feel like it's a game, a series of games that a lot of people know very well. Obviously, the NES community and the speedrunners have played that game countless hours. It's very, very optimized by now. And the category today is choose the weakest boss on every single of these 6 Megaman Classic and beat them as fast as possible with like no weapon, pretty much, because you don't have anything when you start a Megaman game. And I guess we're going to see Gutsman, Flashman, Topman probably, and then Pharaoh Man for the most, and Gravity or Starman, and Blizzardman or Windman maybe. It's up there. The easiest and fastest bosses. sometimes it's not the same thing to be the easiest and the fastest, but
Right.
often it is.
So the video here is showing kill 10 bosses. We're doing a variant where it's just 6 bosses, 1 from each game. I don't know. I've got my route, but I largely people sort of compiled information about this category. There are Buster only runs of Mega Man, and those were obviously a fantastic resource because for the most part, like you said, you only have the Buster. Sometimes you have like a rush coil or something, and in some cases, you could pick up the magnet beam in a Lekman stage and use it for that half a stage or whatever. But for the most part, you're Buster only. So people have kind of looked at the Buster only world records and kind of seen what are roughly the times that you have in these categories and in these levels, and did like a big chart of like here are the fastest ish, and so using that and using what knowledge I had, just sort of absorbing Mega Man through osmosis, I've commentated this game and this series for like 3 or 4 years. It's just so popular in the speedrunning community, and something about this series has always kind of pulled me towards it in terms of watching it as a speedrun. Every Mega Man speedrun race is fun for me to watch in some capacity, and that's not true for a lot of games. So the magic kind of wears off a little bit, but not with Mega Man. So super excited to see this race, and I'm super excited to see where everyone's landed in terms of what they choose, because it's like you said, there's trade-offs between speed, safety, comfort. Which one's your favorite? Which one is your favorite color? Like, who knows what has guided these players down their path.
Alright, let's go. Gutsman first, Moonrim, Silk Shady, Silent Mars, and Skunkov are going to get to that boss. Get different points. Mega Man 1 has very weird mechanics that just never reappear, especially the select button that put the game in a pause and gets you iframes and reset the boss's iframes. We're going to see a lot during the season. Maybe not quite as much today because wow, Moonrim died on those green platforms. They're pretty tricky if you're not experienced with them.
Yeah, they're mean. The trick is that they're attached to the rail on sort of the back half of them, so that's where you want to be looking for these gaps in the rails. And for a long time, I think a lot of people probably thought they were almost random when this happened. Like they weren't really putting 2 and 2 together with the rails in the background and whatnot. But Mega Man 1 and 2 have sort of the stickiest but slipperiest controls. It can take a while to get Mega Man to sort of start walking at full speed, and he will also continue to slide before he finally comes to a stop. That happens more in Mega Man 1 and 2. So, trying to do little movements, repositioning on this platform is quite difficult. So I'm not too surprised that it tripped up one of our runners here. Here's the Gutsman fight.
Okay, Gutsman stomps on the ground and he's mostly going to stun you. It's very, very precise to dodge that attack. But once again, you can reset with the select button the iframe of the boss, and it's not the scariest boss of the bunch. It's already dead for Self Shady, Silent Mars, and Skunkov, and Moonrim is showing off the select button power here, quickly mashing it to reset the iframes of the boss. He's taking a lot of hits though, and I'm pretty scared. Gutsman can deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, so you want him to just jump around and do not much of anything.
No!
If he gets those blocks and he starts throwing them, it can very quickly turn into a DPS race. And, messing around with the select button and focusing purely on offense can sometimes get you caught in these situations. So Moonrim takes a second death, needs to hold on here and come back. Meanwhile, the other players... we're seeing some difference. We're seeing Flashman like we expected from Soul Shady and Skunkov, but we're seeing Quickman from Saline Damar. So definitely an easier boss fight, I'd say, for Flashman. and honestly, probably an easier stage. So I'm not sure what it is about Quickman that has attracted Sailing to Mars, other than maybe it's a little faster. But I'm not even sure if done perfectly, if it's even any faster.
I guess just like the stage, or they've practiced the 10 bosses in a row, and that's the first one they do for Mega Man 2, and did not want to change their muscle memory, so just going with what they know and not caring about like the couple of seconds they're going to waste on that specific stage. Silph Shady is already done with Flashman, very easy, and the runners are on the US version with the easy mode on Mega Man 2, allowing them to kill the bosses.
Oh, please, normal. It says
normal.
normal.
Oh, sorry, it's normal mode.
It's not like that difficult is the original Japanese difficulty, and this was an easier one they added for the American release. That's not the case at all. It's normal, like it says. So,
all right.
If you actually try to do Flashman on difficult mode, it is not an easy fight. It is an incredibly difficult fight to properly optimize, get all your hits in before the first flash comes out. It's kind of notoriously difficult. But on this mode, where you don't really care too much about making sure that you're jumping to manipulate Flashman's movements, it's only having to get half the shots that you would on the harder difficulty. It is quite a bit more manageable. On to Top Man now in Mega Man 3, and Mega Man 3 also introduces the slide.
Yeah, so we cannot charge yet, but we almost have the full abilities of Mega Man. So sliding allows you to go a little bit faster, and lots of slide jumps are making a lot of movement, very interesting in Mega Man 3. Lots of mashing also on the buttons to get your DPS right and your movement correct on that game. It's pretty difficult. Mega Man 3 is certainly, to me, one of the most impressive Mega Man speedrun I know of. It's very technical, and Top Man is the fastest, but it's not an easy stage, and you have to get past those cats that are going to deal a lot of damage if you're not careful. Sandomar's taking a lot of hits there, finally gets it. Skunkoff on the second one just beat them, and Silph Shady is almost done with the stage. Careful on that final section not to die. Those tops are going to shift you left and right and can trip you up pretty bad if you're not careful.
Yeah, you can sort of clip, if you're underneath the top and it moves down on top of you, you will kind of clip up through it and be standing on it. And so you can use that to make some highly improbable looking jumps. But it feels really scary jumping out into the abyss and just kind of counting that this top is going to be there to catch you. So I will be surprised if someone goes out to save just a tiny little bit, if it means dying right before the boss corridor with that checkpoint. Silph Shady did defeat Top Man. It's pretty tough to get in all your shots on Top Man while also avoiding some of these hits. Skunkoff is taking a lot of damage, so I think he's going to only be getting two hits per phase, and he gets baited out. Top Man spins for a long time before he actually goes across the screen. So, if you're not perfectly used to the timing on it, it can be really easy to get caught looking kind of silly, jumping at nothing and then coming down on top of him.
For the longest time, I thought the time they spent spinning was random, like Flame Man in Mega Man 2. But it's not. It's just very long all the time. Silph Shady starting Pharaoh Man from Mega Man 4, and not going for the balloon item, just going for the regular route. It's about 8 to 10 seconds slower, but can take up a lot of your HP, but they did not take a single hit so far, or just are refilling on the way, so that's pretty good for them. Sandomars and Skunkoff are very close to each other. Sandomars maybe a second ahead, and Moonrim dies on the just after the checkpoint, thankfully, but dies on that weird enemy that stops at you. You have to kill. It takes a lot of hits, but makes it pretty well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that kind of punishes you double for having slow mashing, because the longer it's alive, the more tops it's going to shoot out, and those are going to eat up your projectiles. So, literally, if you're only shooting at 1 hertz or something, you're never going to hit it. You're always going to be shooting tops that are coming out of it. So, it is. That and the cats are big tests in your ability to mash. Moonrim is going to take a little... needed to grab the ladder and didn't quite. So that's a fairly costly death, about halfway between checkpoints. It's something about this game is just terrifying to me.
Santa Mars.
The spikes everywhere,
Slides
man.
to the spikes.
They just kill you. It's so easy to touch them. Oh, it's mean. It can be mean sometimes, but it is fun to watch.
Megaman has a big health bar, but most of the things that are going to kill you in Megaman games are going to kill you in one hit. It's insane. And Santa Mars dies again, has only 1 life left if they did not drop any more, and they may regret going into Pharaoh Man stage here if they die again. The fight Pharaoh Man is pretty difficult. He jumps at you and he tries his damn best to kill you, and Moonrim falls off the top here, surprised probably by the shifting left and right from those platforms.
This is a game over too, so all the way back to the start of the stage. Very, very costly death right at the end of Top Man stage. Gonna head back in, not going for any kind of crazy last minute stage adjustments. Skunkoff is into the Pharaoh Man fight. Silk Shady already on to Mega Man 5, showing off the really wacky Gravity Man stage with reversey gravity going on. The slide inputs actually get reversed on the ceiling, so you're holding up instead of down to slide. Skunkoff in a very, very bad situation here. Let's see if he can hold on. If he just gets nothing but charge shots here, then he can just keep delivering it. Oh my goodness.
Yes. All right. So as soon as the runner beat the boss, as soon as the boss explode, they can switch game and move on to the next. Skunkoff is also going to go for Gravity Man. I like that stage. The mechanic is pretty well executed. Mega Man 5 has very interesting stages and mechanics, but it's probably the most polished of all, and weirdly enough, it's not the one that I like the most. It's still pretty solid, and the stages are pretty short, and Gravity Man stage on Silk Shady's screen is almost already done, and the boss fight is pretty interesting. It will jump up and down and reverse the gravity, so you have to shoot at them exactly at the correct timing and not take too many hits, because as soon as you take a hit, the charge resets. It's not the case on Mega Man 4, but Mega Man 5 is not as generous.
Yeah, but it does change the hitbox on the Charge Buster to be nice and fat, so it's a lot easier to land the Mega Man 5 Charge Buster on a fight like this Gravity Man fight than if you were maybe stuck with 4, which is quite a bit thinner. So there's lots of little differences between the games. Silk Shady finished off Gravity Man, so it's moving on to Mega Man 6, and the quirk here is that you can no longer just press the jump button to jump out of your slide. This is a huge change. If you're really trying to push this game, and any Mega Man game, you're doing these slides over every surface that you can possibly manage. And one of the ways that you make that manageable is that you can just press a button to jump out of it, so that you can slide on tiny little surfaces and make sure that you jump instead of sliding off of it and into a pit or whatever. But in Mega Man 6, you need to do like a left input to cancel your slide, and then a jump input, followed by, of course, right again on the D-pad. It's tricky. It's a tricky movement to have to do again and again and again all over the stage. So that's kind of the wrinkle that Mega Man 6 adds. It's Silk Shady. Quite that is their problem. It's a couple other things that were kind of bullying poor Silk Shady here on Windman stage.
Is brutal. It's pretty hard to get your charge shot to kill those enemies that are flying there shooting at you. You have the crawlers on the platform that tries to trip you up, and the optimal strategy is pretty difficult to do here. So sadly, Silk Shady takes a hit and falls to its death. And as you said, like the jumping in Mega Man 6 is a little bit different, and it's weird. Like coming from 4 and 5 to 6, it's oh wow, and the spikes on the ceiling kills them.
About to get passed by Skunkoff, indeed passed by Skunkoff. A lead change with 2 late deaths in Windman stage. We'll see. Silk Shady, earned that lead through some tight execution through some other stages. So I would expect to see this gap sort of start to close a little bit. It's going to be interesting on the right side of the screen here.
Yep, Skunkov took the lead, and Steel Shady is having big troubles on Megaman 6 here. Moonrim did not pass Megaman 3, sadly, still stuck on Top Man. And Sander Mars is going to do his damn best to catch up with Skunkov and Steel Shady. Stuck on the same jump, but Skunkov finally makes it past that screen, takes a final hit though.
Silph Shady cannot get hit by anything at this point. The spikes, of course, but now even the enemies will do him in. Oh no! Come on! Oh, Mega Man, why do you stick your hand out behind you? You don't have to do that. Just put it down, and you won't hit the. Oh well, all right. Back to the stage select here.
Mega Man jump animation is one of those that are very easy to recognize, like. Castlevania's Simon Belmont jumping animation, or Archer from Ghost and Goblin is going to be as well pretty easy to recognize, and those hands sticking up are going to be the death of you sometimes.
If you've ever played like Flash game and you saw the character like jump in that game, you can tell when they took that sprite straight out of Mega Man because because of those arms where they are. Silly Mars is not able to get to the platform, but the checkpoint is right there. So this is a much nicer death to take.
It is weird, those moving platforms. That's why I like Megaman 5 and 6 weird quirky mechanics like that. They did try to get new things out of in those games, even though like many Mega Man games had come out at that point, when Mega Man 5 and 6 came out on the NES, and still managed to get some new things, and finally got to Windman after like Iceman and Fireman in Mega Man 1. They did think about the third wheel there, but anyway, we did not yet. Oh yeah, Skunkov is done. My bad. The Windman is very short. It's one of the easiest boss of the bunch here.
Yeah, that's all the stages. There's kind of 3 stages that are quite close in terms of speed. It's really all about personal preference, and so, what kind of things are you good at, what kinds of things are you bad at, and so Windman has that ridiculous section with the fans and the spikes that obviously is a problem for many people, like we saw today. You've got Blizzard Man, which has ice, of course. It has its fair share of spikes as well. There's like a submarine section that's moving up and down. It has 2 ice pillars with a series of bombs that laid out that you need to detonate in order to clear the way to the boss, that are in a kind of notoriously mean pattern, and that's kind of the big barrier. Moonrim missing the ladder again with synchronized boss kills from Silph Shady and Salient Mars on Windman. We'll have to check the tape to figure out who came out on top there. But the other option for Mega Man 6 is Flame Man, which I think you would be truly insane to pick compared to the other 2, because it's filled with this horrible tar that slows you down. It gets lit on fire and becomes instant death instead. Yeah, it's a mean stage, and the boss is also probably the hardest of the 3.
Yeah, I did try many, like not all of them, but many of the bosses Buster only on my first attempt, just to get an idea of all those bosses. And Flame Man stage, I did not finish. I went for Blizzard Man, Windman, and Flame Man, and was like, nope, not that one on my runs. It's not fun. It is doable, but it's not the best. Interestingly enough, Silph Shady doesn't have the same password, probably because they died and don't have the same life count.
Yeah, I think that would do it. Or like they picked up an E-tank or something weird.
Oh, yeah.
Moonrim has made it into the top man fight. Does take a hit there, can only get hit by 1 more, so this is it. Any hit now, I'm pretty sure will kill Moonrim, and that one did it. What is the life count situation? We do have another life, and now we're going to be at this fight with full health. I haven't experimented with, if you literally do nothing to try to dodge any of Top Man's attacks and just focus on mashing him point blank, I don't know if you win that race with full health or not. I suspect Probably not. You
No.
probably do have to do a bit of dodging, and Moonroom is not, so cannot get hit again.
You take way too many hits when he just goes at you. But you probably could not dodge those tops attack, the 3 tops, and make it. But yeah, Moonrim. Oh wow, that was close, but finally makes it. We're going to have about 7 extra minutes for Moonrim to go through those games, but a lot of the runners are done already. And obviously the scoring is going to be super weird because this is like not the official category, so all the runners have beaten the games way faster than expected when you are going for 10 bosses instead of just the 6. So they're going to have like insane scores, and the leaderboard is going to trip up. So, but don't worry, everything is under control. Pharaoh Man, the start is pretty weird. You have to mash pretty well. You can also slide 4 times and then jump, and you will make it alive, sinking into the sand. But oh wow, nice jump here. Moonrim is going to go to catch the balloon. Little tiny secret here. That is going to save about 10 seconds. And is going to go back into the stage with full HP as well, which is very, very nice.
Yeah, the if you're a super baby like me and you're scared of Pharaoh Man, you do miss out on an opportunity to get an E-Tank on this route, I'm pretty sure. I think you pass it if you go this way. I can't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So if you really want to be safe and get that E-Tank for this fight, because if you get bad patterns on Pharaoh Man, it's incredibly hard to dodge the jumping forward double-fisted attack that Pharaoh Man can do. So, you know, if you get banged up a little bit in the stage and then you get some bad patterns, it can be a bad scene. So I think the E-Tank in a race has a little bit of value, and there's that slide carrying you off just a little bit too far.
Okay, back to the checkpoint. The advice a lot of runners have given me for the Pharaoh Man fight is to stay close to the boss. He will not jump super quickly at you, will try to land on you, and he's going to do small hops instead of big jumps. And apparently it makes the fight way safer. I yet have to experiment with that. I finally learned like to finish all the games relatively quickly, but Megaman is pretty easy to just finish. It's not like the levels don't have like very specific tricks or skips, so you can like just beat the game. So I did not practice the ILs, and Moonrim dies again. Those tiny jumps, like that's probably related to the fact that the slide, if you're not exactly used to sliding, it's actually pretty dangerous to do it because you will mistime your jumps more than it's going to save you time.
Yeah, it's like a totally different set of inputs sliding compared to walking, and sort of having to switch gears between the two, and then incorporating jumps as well. And your jump button, you know, when you're, you know, down and jump is slide, and then like right and jump is jump. So like you're getting totally different sets of movements from the same button, and that can sort of cross wires in your brain. So if you're just trying to do that without really practicing what it means to be holding a different direction on the D-pad button, you know, let your brain figure that part out, it can really get you into trouble. And we're seeing some of that from Moonrim. So this is pretty typical of sort of early unrefined Mega Man play. This is just what this game requires of speedrunners.
So we'll see Moonrim experiment with all those games. Once again, this is very early in the season, so it's fairly normal for a lot of runners to not be too experienced with the games. We do not expect all the runners to be like flawless at all 10 games just after 2 weeks. The EUD is a long process, and it's all about learning all together all those games. So we'll see if Moonrim goes for that E-Tank with Rush Coil. in the just before the checkpoint right here apparently doesn't want to or doesn't know if they can reach it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's easy to get into the mindset of, oh, I just, it's Buster only, so I'll just use the Buster. Oh, maybe could have landed on those spikes with the last bit of invincibility frames and got on there. But yeah, you don't really have much of a reason to open the menu and look at it. But if you do, you'll find that you do have Rush Coil in some of these games. No super arrow though, unfortunately, in Mega Man 5, and no items 1 or 2 are in Mega Man 2, unfortunately. But Rush Coil here and there can help you out just a little bit. I think it's pretty much this E-Tank in this level that is the only thing I kind of have in mind with Rush Coil.
For my first run, I knew there was the balloon there for Foreman, but I did not know how to reach it, and I thought you had to use Rush Coil, and actually you can just slide and jump, but my mind totally blanked on the dash for the longest times on those games.
Alright, this attempt looking at much better. Hasn't got hit yet. Not that that matters when spikes are around, but we're into the boss corridor now with a full stick of butter here in the top left corner of the screen. So we'll get an honest fight. Nice little charge shot. Trying to get the early hit, the disrespect. And Thorman opens up with that tough pattern, gets clipped by that charge shot. That's what you really don't want. But here, yeah, look, we're seeing the point blank. You got to be bold. That you know the timing on when this charge is going to finish, because he certainly cannot react to when the projectile comes out at that point. But this is working out.
Yep, and yeah, he jumps on top of you, so he does like small jumps usually, and it's just an insane fight. I don't know what it is about Mega Man bosses, but they're all very, very difficult, actually. They've been designed like to take a lot of space on screen, have big attacks, many different patterns, and being able to play around, like to toy around all those bosses in that category is actually pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that they're always fast. They're very fast. They will just like cross the screen in like a third or half a second or something. So it's very difficult just to get out of the way of them, and contact damage with Mega Man bosses does varying amounts of damage, but generally it's a lot. It's a lot of damage. You cannot afford to be taking hits like this. So Moonrim, this might be their last life. This is rough. Gets Goomba stomped there a little bit. We'll see if they still have this life in the tank, but no, they didn't think so.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
Probably where we are going to stop for the race, and Moonrim is not sadly going to finish on time. So yeah, they may want to keep on going. There's no problem with that, obviously, but they're going to lose a lot of points. And yeah, the difference between finishing and not finishing Mega Man on that specific category apparently is about like 380 points, with Jant having a fantastic run here and finishing on top once again with 1254. Getting sub 13 apparently is doable, but is pretty difficult. And it's who got the best score here? Apparently it is Metallo with a 1238.
Oh yeah, this is no surprise. Metallo is a seasoned Mega Man runner. Especially Mega Man 2. They do 5 stages from Mega Man 2 in their current PB for the full 10 Robot Master category. And one of them is Airman. That is one that not many people are doing, because Airman is not so bad if you have Flashman's weapon, and it can be easy, or you can go for the truly insane stuff if you have the item 1. But with neither of those things, you need to make a lot of crazy, very precise jumps on the little demon head things. So it's something only a Mega Man 2 expert would even go for. But that's who Metallo is. So he does it in his run. He's currently number 1, I'm pretty sure, in the category. Yeah.
I did not check, but I'm like, yeah, they are like, Metallo is a very good runner at 1922 on killing 10 Robot Master from every single game. The second player is Taker with 2033. Taker is a runner we have to keep an eye on. We don't have Mel West this season. They're not going to join the UD7. They were like one of the best runners from UD from 3 to 6. And Taker is one of those runners where they are going to just get crazy times on all 10 games, and did practice all 5 games so far very, very well. So we have to keep an eye on that's his name. And we are going to finish today the stream with another race of Trackmania. So pretty much the same thing as we've seen before, but try to do better, I guess. It can be pretty difficult to come back to Trackmania after Megaman, I suppose. We'll see.
Yeah, but that's one of the things you have to do if you want to truly compete in the decathlon, going from game to game to game, totally switching gears mentally and I guess literally as we move on to Trackmania. I guess there is no gear switching though. It really is just gas brake. Maybe it's an automatic F1 car. These things are, of course it's automatic. It's tricked out like insane. The technology that goes into F1 cars could put us on Mars if we didn't actually rather want to have the cars go a little faster. So yes, of course it's like a magic car that can correct itself in midair and operates itself under four inputs. Basically, there's no up or down really. It's just left, right, gas, brake. That's it. And you'd think with such a limited set of inputs that it would be relatively easy to achieve success. And if your definition of success is pretty close to some of the top times, a couple seconds away, you'll get there. But if you're trying to push for some of those top times, you will find it is just mountains of effort and work to truly understand and cut those last few seconds, shave those frames on all of these turns. But we're seeing some of it, really. I've been very impressed from the play from everyone today, and of course, particularly Céline Demars, who really knocked it out of the park on that first run.
Yeah, I feel like Moonrim has more green medals than he had at the start of the stream. I'm not sure,
I think you're right.
But I think they do. They did unlock green medals on the previous run, which is very difficult to do and very impressive, especially B14 and 15. I think they unlocked those too. Not 100% sure, but if that's the case, they must feel pretty great with their run. Even if like all 15 in a row did not go so well, just having like good goal split pretty much is always rewarding, especially in such a game. So I did check out the top 10, and it's going to be pretty difficult for Sogitoost to enter that top 10 with 28 point being 28 point behind KTH. It's going to be pretty difficult, but it is possible. And Céline Demars is at the 8th place currently, but with like 11:20 could maybe come back into the top 30 after Trackmania. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go first track. Very difficult with those. Mixed with concrete and dirt at the start. It's pretty hard to stay like sticking to the ground. Pretty much, you drift very quickly on those kind of mixed surfaces. And yeah, Céline Demars is just like flawless on all these tracks. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I'm not even sure exactly how the physics behave with the concrete strip in the middle. Like if you have 2 tires on and 2 tires off, does the game treat it differently on both tires, and what does that mean? I just know it's very difficult to really keep your speed through those sections. Céline Demars does have a lead on stream, thanks in large part to a faster computer, I think, but I also did probably pick up maybe a half second or so on that track. The players will be, they have an auto splitter that's cutting out the load times, and they will sort of upload their final times afterwards. So despite how it may appear on stream, we'll get their actual times and compare them when we're all done. For now, the second track in the books for Sailing to Mars. Soul Shady going through the crazy loop-de-loop, which looks kind of nauseating from our perspective, perhaps. But I promise you, when you're in control, you'd be surprised at how naturally it flows from this sort of third-person into first-person situation. I don't think I've ever like spun out of a loop-de-loop or anything. It just kind of it goes. It's surprising at how well this car handles, really.
To be fair, I would not play Trackmania in VR, but like on a non-moving screen, it works well. Senator Mars just a little bit ahead. Once again, hard to tell if that's only due to shorter load times or if they did better. I did not keep track of every single track times for every single player, but here you have an interesting drop, and you use the drop to tilt your car to the left, and you drift on the landing, and you can have like a very, very interesting trajectory at that point. It's all the tiny thing and that you have to keep in mind. Moonrim is going to not drift here, and actually because of that lose a little bit of time, maybe like two tenths of a second, and all that, those tiny time loss or gain add up at the end of the track.
Yeah, I was working on a track and I was getting like consistently some time, and then I just saved like a half second on the first 2 seconds of track or something and didn't even understand exactly how I had done it. It is insane how doing certain things, tiny little differences, can have such a huge impact on your time, on your speed coming out of certain sections. It is something that it takes a long time to truly get the feel for and understand, and something you can kind of start to suss out. And it's something that only comes with time. So it's the kind of thing that either you've played Trackmania before or maybe similar racing games, and that certainly helps. Or you're just a natural and it just clicks. And I'm not sure exactly what is the case for these players, but whatever the case, Sailing to Mars has kind of just got that mojo over some of our other competitors today.
Yeah, it's clearly working for them. Trackmania it's there in their fingers, and they have the total control on that car. That drop here on the dirt is pretty difficult. You don't want to go too fast because you would jump, and if your tires are not on the ground, you are probably losing time in Trackmania because you are not like using your engine to propel yourself. You are actually decelerating, and it's pretty weird, and it's like often the case in car games actually, and you really want to keep your grip on the track, and it's all those tiny details. You have to know when to go as fast as possible and know when to brake so you can like stay on the ground.
So predictably, Sailing to Mars has the lead, heading out into the proper stadium onto some grass even that we talked about before in race 1 how awful it is to try to do anything on top of grass, but this track is mercifully only kind of grass straightaways. As long as you come into it with the right angle, which you can set up on the concrete beforehand, you can just kind of glide across the grass, forget it's there. Not too bad. Actually a relatively easy track over and done with for Sailing to Mars, and some of our other racers almost. Soul Shady about halfway done. But we're getting into some more fun loop-to-loops. We got a double loop here for Sailing to Mars, totally destroying the bed rate, I'm sure, but it does its best.
It is hard to have like a good clean stream in Trackmania. You really have to have good like computer and internet so you can send all those tiny pixels correctly. Sailing to Mars is way ahead of Skunkov, which it means like by 10 or 15 seconds in Trackmania. Like it's not much, but just gaining a second is so hard in that game. So Sandomos with his weird camera angle has a very dynamic like camera movement on those wall rides, which really tripped me up. And that turn here, he almost goes like down to, I don't know, 200 speed, I don't know what the unit is, and finishes upside down, obviously.
Yeah, that was good. That turn you mentioned, we'll take a look at how Skunkov handles it. I think that might have been it actually, but
yeah,
it's like an impossible turn. It's really mean. So when a player just kind of glides through it, it can seem like, you know, whatever, you just turned left, it's fine. But it's one of the hardest turns in the entire run actually. So the fact that it went so smoothly for both players actually is it's very impressive.
Yeah, Sandomars on that full dirt map. You want to go in between the tent and the what is the name for that thing? If you collide with it, you are going to go full stop. It's not because it's a tiny stick that you're going to break it. It's mean, and it saves about like a tenth of a second. So you usually don't want to go for that, but obviously Sandomars at that skill level is going to go for all the optimization you can find.
Yeah, except for the crazy shortcut that I'm curious to learn.
Oh yeah,
more about later on.
I hope we can see that on stream, but that's a big ask, I think.
Yeah, maybe not week 2, maybe eventually
week 3. I don't know. I don't remember what the games are going to be for next week's streams, but probably not Trackmania. We are going to cycle on all the 10 games in the first like 5 weeks, so we are going to see more of that game, obviously, and maybe those crazy tricks are going to make an appearance at the end of the season.
Sailing to Mars and another one of these long multi-lap tracks with a lot of little finesse here and there on this track. Anytime you hit the dirt road, like if you come off of concrete, you're going to have a lot of speed, and then going onto dirt afterwards, it becomes very difficult to control your car. So trying to keep as much of your speed through those sections without totally losing control. It's so easy to clip those railings, and these railings in particular on the dirt tracks they're not smoothly connected. They're gaps in the railings all over the place, and if you hit one of those gaps, it will just flip your car up into the air. You're just done. So it can be very disastrous, and everyone has done a great job of, you know, not only avoiding that, but also just driving really well. Not touching them at all, you know, not glancing them at all. Really good driving from all 4 players, but everyone's just not going to be able to catch Sailing to Mars. It's just flying here.
Yep. Okay, that drop here on Sandomars screen always trips me up. Almost flips Sandomars' car, but he recovers nicely and finishes the track. B11 here has a lot of those very tight turns at low speed, and when you are at low speed you cannot drift so well. There is like a neo slide technique that I will need. Oh no, Skunkov taking a big hit. And
yeah,
that's it.
We talked a little bit about this this sort of lip in the middle of the track right there, that if you have enough speed you can fly right over it, and if you don't have enough speed you need to do something else. Skunkov just barely didn't have enough, thought he did, went for it, paid the price.
Yeah, that's very mean. The game is going to full stop you and kill everything you have if you touch the tiniest railing or wall at any point. So it can be pretty bad for the runners. Sandomars starting on B13, so this is the track with the big skip. Let's see if Sandomars go for it. I want to overhype it and then be like, oh well, it's obvious. Did not go for it. Yeah, it did not. Too bad. Go watch the ILs or the world records on that game on speedrun.com, and you'll see some fantastic text. And on some tracks you are not going to see any difference, like barely, and you're going to be like, how does he save like 3 seconds doing the exact same thing?
Yeah, I have noticed, like, even if he seems to be going over the same parts of the track that I do, the world record holder, just like, I'm like, he's going faster here. He's just going faster. How does that? It's not fair that he's just going faster. And it's of course because he's doing little things to keep his speed in places where I'm losing it. But it really does seem like they just like are playing with a better car or something when you get to the higher level. But part of the beauty of this game is that it just has the car. This is the Trackmania car. This is how it handles in every situation. So you can really sort of get the hang of how this thing ticks and get down to those crazy optimizations that people have got down to.
That turn on the grass on the Moonrim screen is pretty difficult. You have almost full turn before the track is even grass. It's very bad. But Moonrim goes slowly and is going to make it nicely. The last few turns here on the dirt are pretty bad. You want to kill your speed so you can actually tilt towards the exit instead of just like bonking your car full speed into the railing. And Sandemars is already at the end of turn 2 while Moonrim and Skunkov are just starting the 15th track.
Which is, I think, a little better compared to Sandemars as they were in race number 1. I think it was a full track ahead at that point. And it's a long one. It's one of the longest tracks of the bunch that we're going to be racing here today, but already on the last lap has done a great job concerning their speed, and Skunkov, is not going to be able to recover. It gets pretty generous about auto-correcting your car, getting it to kind of flip back over. Eventually, it might take a while, but sometimes you can get just absolutely trapped upside down, and that's a reset situation. So is going to have a tough time catching Sil Shady. Well, no, Sil Shady, he's still like half a lap ahead of Sil Shady. Moonrim is the one who is. Wow, they're very close actually. No, 1 lap ahead. Sorry.
Sandemars finished in 11:22. So not only they're very very good, they're also like very consistent in that game. Like it's impressive. Very very well done. And maybe that's enough for them to come back in the top 3. Definitely enough to stay in top 10. So at least another star for their player card.
We got another finish from Moonrim as well. Time will come in not too long. Sil Shady on the final lap. We almost had 3 players on the final lap of the final track all at the same time. Skunkov across the finish line, Sil Shady about halfway to go, up in the top parts, about to approach the engine-killing red X's, so you want to make sure you come into them with plenty of speed to kind of coast into the finish line. Was a little shy on the speed. You can tell how they're coming down on the slopes. If you're kind of catching the downslopes, or indeed even getting all the way past the downslopes, if you're really good, is kind of where you want to be, and was just a little shy, but still plenty of speed, very solid time, and hopefully they're happy with their performance. We can take a look at our top 8 so far. Pretty sure this top 8 will stay our top 8, barring well, I don't know, Metalo had a pretty bad Trackmania last time, but that might have been something bad happened, so we'll see.
That might change indeed. Skunkov is going to submit their time, and it's going to be tough to stay in that top 10. Soggy Toost might fall down a couple of notches. And Nemoker as well. Nemoker is one of the best UD7 runners so far, has kept his first place for the first 2 weeks. Very, very talented on all 10 games, but sadly, if you go to learn all 10 games at the same time, you're going to get passed on more specific tourneys like we're doing today on only 3 games of the bunch. So we'll see how it holds up. As many more runners finish. Moonrim did not beat Megaman on time, so they're going to stay on the bottom part of the leaderboard, sadly for them. Still a fantastic Trackmania twice, over 200 points for them, so It's not easy to get over 200 on Trackmania, as you can see on screen right now.
Yeah, of the people who managed to do it twice, only one of four actually. Devil Tifa obviously has the potential to. We saw the 203 in race number 2, much better than the 177 from that first race. So something really bad happened to Devil Tifa in that first race. For better or worse, they were not on stream for that one. And, you know,
Apparently
you're curious,
the game
but you
crashed.
also. Oh, I was worried. I was, you know, it's one thing if you drive, you know, you hit a couple railings or whatever, but it's another thing when it's not your fault. So a bit unfortunate. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out if the crash happens often or not. Maybe we'll have to find a way not to punish the players when it's not their fault if they lose a bunch of time. And yes, Sogitoost sadly falls to the 11th place. Namoker may stay on top 10 here, but KTH is not done yet with Trackmania. I'm surprised.
Yeah, they had a 171 before, and their PB is actually a 157. So.
Oh, okay, and they beat their PB by more than 10 points on the first race. Very nice. Oh, and they're done.
Yeah.
Okay, and barely behind Sogitoost and Namoker, meaning Sogitoost is going to get stuck at that 11th place, and everybody above them on the leaderboard is going to get their star on the player card. So Namoker, Metalo, Vandal, Skunkov, Silshady, Andy Shepard, Sandomars, and for top 3, Devil Tifa at 964, but maybe they've lost like 25, 26 points on that first Trackmania race, hard to tell, so a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, and that would be the difference between third and second. Taker here at 984 points, firmly in second place. Might have been a fun clash to see who would get second, but it does go to Taker here, who is just 6 points behind our winner for today. Gold star goes to Jean.
Yeah, that's their second. They got one on the last Saturday, if I recall correctly. So they are undefeated during the weekend. Apparently, it's their time to shine. It's not easy to do well on those races. As you said earlier, most of those runners are very experienced with the UD. Some of them are not, like Andy Shepard. I think that's the first UD they've joined. Sogitoost was with us on UD6, but only on some specific games, if I recall correctly. They had a very good inertia, and Kaiju as well has not participated too much during the past UDs. I've seen their nickname on those leaderboards at some point in the past, but not at that skill level. So I'm pretty excited to see new faces, new names being like more involved and ready to tackle some of the most experienced runners that we've maybe seen too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this, and in Mystery Tournament has been won by Andy and 4H 6 of the past 7 times or something like that. And the one time he didn't win, he made top 8, but then like had a wedding to go to, so he bowed out and gave a spot to someone else. So there's every time I join the commentary for it, and someone's like, someone's got to beat this guy, someone's got to take him out, just for the sake of just mixing things up. I'm getting tired of it, and so I can understand the wanting to see new players to come in and shake things up, and I think I'm with you on that one. We've got the achievements for week 3 now. I thought I had this weekend to finish week 2. Do I still have? Yeah. I need to join a Trackmania race like today? Like I need to know. I need to get my star.
Yeah, you have until tonight to get your star. All star will be given in exactly 6 hours. So you have 6 hours to
Oh,
join
no.
the race.
Okay.
And we can do that right after like a quick session for everybody that does not get all those achievements. But you can also start right now if you need like something to do absolutely, and you've already got all the achievement for this week. Next week's achievements starting now are Lawnmower finally beat the entire game. You have to at that point get there. It's a tough game, but I know everybody can do it. It's Kirby's Dream Land week, obviously, with a nice little cute achievements, killing Lololo and Lalala without losing. It's not a life; it's like HP, like any without getting touched. Same thing with DDD, and that's some very important skill to have, because during races you might get to those bosses with only 1 HP, so you need to be able to do that and join a race on Kirby's Dream Land. So I need to learn that game more like in depth. On minute, finish the game. Doesn't take too long, but if you want to go for all the secrets and all the stuff there is in that game, you can take it. It can take some time. I don't know if you've done that or if you've rushed through the game or.
I have a 1 hour 35-minute run of minute, even though it's like a 10-minute game if you know what you're doing. Yeah, it was my first playthrough, my blind run. Mm-hmm. I got like 60% of the items and stuff. There's a lot of secrets in that game.
Yeah, I haven't found.
It was fun trying to find them all and coming very, very short, because some of it is incredibly cryptic. At some point, you like go to a ghost house and unlock a bunch of ghosts, and they talk in riddles all over the map. And it's fun.
I have no clue what's the deal with half of the secrets in that game yet. I need to play, maybe do a 100% run, and maybe that's going to be an achievement for later this season. So we'll see. Next on VVV, save 2 companions, save 2 of your friends. You've lost 5 of them, so it's just like getting into the game, starting to play a little bit. Check that if everything is working for you. Obviously, get familiar with the game. On Megaman 1 to 6, interesting thing: you have to kill 2 bosses of Megaman 5 and 2 bosses of Megaman 6 in a run, meaning that not necessarily like in a run, but with the rules of UD7, meaning you cannot like get all the weapons to beat easily the bosses. That means you are going to have to make a choice and try to experiment with multiple bosses. You cannot just go with like, okay, Gravity Man and Windman are the easiest and fastest. You have to make your own opinion, at least comparing 2 bosses on those 2 games. And finally, The Messenger, pretty much the same like introduction achievement as VVV. It's just talk to Necro, the first Phobikin, which is like 7 minutes into the run when you know exactly what you're doing, so it's not too hard to do casually.
All right, so I'm looking forward to diving into and the Messenger, Mega Man in Minute, and Lawnmower. I've already got covered. Now, if I've already done this, do I just mark myself down, or do I have to do it again this week?
You can mark yourself down already.
Okay.
As a joke, I've said to a couple of runners, you can go for the true UD achievement, where you join all the tourneys and you do all the achievements during the week. They've been announced, but you don't have to. It's once you're done with an achievement, you don't have to repeat it. It would be tedious for the longer ones that are coming our way, so it's once again, it's just all for fun and in order to discover the game and to play them more. It's not like anything competitive or an assignment or a condition to anything. So it's just for you, so you have fun and you have like little ticks to mark down and gain white stars, which is
but the fun part for me is that like I want to do it right. If there's some rules in place, I want to follow those rules. I'm gonna earn my stars.
Obviously, I want people to follow the rules, but I explain like the sense of the rules. On some you have to do the things right. You cannot submit during the UD like PBs you've done before the announce of the game. You have to do it during the season. But if you've done an achievement during the season already, you don't have to redo it. But it can be fun. And I hope all those are going to be done at least twice by everybody in the UD, like just not like grinding it specifically, but I hope during many runs on Kirby's Dream Land I will beat all those bosses without losing HP.
Right. It would be fun to watch like the pop-ups or something if you could actually like get it into the ROM or something. That's some next level dedication.
Yeah. UD8, I don't promise at all.
No, that's fair. That is completely fair. So yeah, I've got some Kirby to play. Get a little better at these boss fights. Learning 2 new games this week, and I've got I basically Windman. I need to try Windman for myself. Yeah. Is that in addition to race immediately after this broadcast, Trackmania, and then that's my achievements, my goals for this week. I'm excited.
Nice. Okay. If you like what you've seen, be sure to join the UD Discord and maybe join us in the season. It has just started, and it's never too late to dive in, learn all those games, join us for fun, or because you think you can win this entire thing. I'm not sure what's your motivation, but it's definitely open to anyone that's interested. Next up on Speed Gaming, it's Saturday morning, so I'm pretty sure we have a lot of things on the schedule.
Yeah, we've got some Portal coming up in about 7 minutes or so on this very channel on Speed Gaming. After that, we've got Ori and the Blind Forest, and starting over on Speed Gaming 2, we've got that Super Mario Bros. 3 randomizer. That'll go on for a while, followed by Metroid Zero Mission, and some Megaman 11 as well. And then towards the evening, the Link to the Past randomizer interactive race between Christos Owen and Willard J. Bradley are some names. I think they're billing this as tea versus coffee happening here. So if you want to get your bit races on, Aria of Sorrow randomizer, Donkey Kong Country 3, Zelda 1 randomizer has been pretty cool. And then something crazy is happening at 9 on Speed Gaming 2. The Rogue Galaxy Showcase Race is, I think, 9 hours long, going through most of the night. So some pretty interesting stuff happening. Again, reminder, right here on this channel, if you don't go anywhere, you're going to see some Portal 2. And I hope you like it.
Yeah, I have a good weekend of speedrunning, watching speedruns on Speed Gaming. And next UD stream should be on Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. EST. And it's going to be 3 games dealt at random, so no one knows which one we're going to play. So you have to come in like ready on all 10 games if you want to have a chance to win. And obviously you will not be able to grind everything, so it's going to be a little bit of fun. So see you on Tuesday afternoon, and have a good weekend.